Custom Battler Bomberman, aka Bomberman 2 DS. Arguably the best Bomberman game, definitely the most extensive one mechanically, and I've been speedrunning it. As of writing, I'm the only person who has run any of the full game categories. Since the game isn't all too well known, I've decided to make a semi-guide to speedrunning it, explaining some of the oddities and nuances I've found. First though, single level runs. Fairly simple to understand. Try to use a cartridge that you have a 100% save file on so you have access to all the custom parts, and then, well, just start or restart a level and get through as fast as you can. To keep things simple, I've decided that the game's own stage time at the end of the stage is the time that is submitted, so pausing isn't allowed at the moment. Real time is used for all other categories. I have submitted some placeholder runs for every level, though I haven't spent too much time really optimizing these, except maybe Cave 9. Can't think of too many ways that one can be improved, but I'll be happy to be proven wrong. One other person, Soap Agent, has run all the levels in World 1, and what he's been able to do is pretty amazing, so do look at his runs for some strats. Another category is All Levels Marathon. I made this one for the off chance that anyone wants to run the full game without having to delete their save file, so they have all custom parts available from the start. Might be a good idea to save some custom presets in advance. That way, while running the game and changing your parts for a stage, you can just load your preset instead of having to piece your custom together part by part. Other than that, just play through all 70 levels as quickly as possible. I'll mention here that normally when selecting a level, the game will take you to the customization screen before you can continue on to the stage. However, if in the map screen you press start instead of A, the game will skip the customization screen and take you directly to the level, saving a few seconds. This will happen even if you haven't selected a world yet. The game will just use the world you have your cursor on and whichever level happens to be selected in that world. So if, say, you finished Cave and wanted to move on to Tower, but you want to make sure it takes you to Tower 1, then before starting the run, go over to Tower and move the cursor to the first level. Select it once and back out. That way, when getting back there during the run, the cursor will already be on the first level. And after finishing the Cave, you just go up to Tower and press start and you'll start Tower 1 immediately. Now, there is one singular exception to being able to skip the customization screen, but I'll get to that later. If enough people show interest, another potential category would be something like single costume all level runs, as in play through the whole game with Max, or play through the whole game with the magic suit or something. Could be used as a subcategory of all levels, but now let's get into the other full game categories. Any percent, all SRank/max percent, and 100%. A lot of what I say here can also be read in the two GameFAQs guides that exist as of writing, although there is an error present in both of them, more on that later. For now, in the game's title screen, press and hold L, R, X, and Y to delete your save file. You are now ready to start a run. Let's look at the game's structure first. At the start, we begin in Zone A, the base, and can only select the first level. Beating the first level unlocks the second one, beating that unlocks the third, and so on until the 10th stage for the boss fight. Beating that will unlock the next two zones, Factory and Town, with only the first level accessible in each. Each zone has 10 levels again, and while finishing one zone, you can exit it and progress in a different zone if you find a reason to do so. Beating the factory will unlock the ruins, beating the town will unlock the desert, and beating either the ruins or the desert will unlock the cave, regardless of whether you've unlocked the other zone. That is to say, here for instance, I haven't beaten town and unlocked desert yet, but I've still unlocked cave by beating the ruins. I bring this up because it is another possibility for routing your playthrough, if you find a reason to do so. Finally, beating ruins, desert, and cave will unlock tower. Get through the tower and beat the final boss there to finish your any percent run. As of writing, there are no known glitches or anything, no way to skip any of this. You have to beat all 70 stages of the game. Meanwhile, all stages are structured into missions. For boss or battle stages, there's only one mission. Beat the boss or all the enemies. Most other stages are split into 3 missions each, making up the sections of the stage. If the mission is to defeat all enemies, do so quickly, and note that the last enemy you defeat will drop the key card, so save the one closest to the exit gate for last. If the mission is to defeat certain specific enemies, those being marked on the top screen, you can ignore all other ones, otherwise the same still applies. The last one will drop the key card. If you're tasked with bombing soft blocks, the last one required will again yield the key card. Sometimes you're tasked with just finding the key card somewhere in a soft block. Most of the time that I can tell, the location is randomized, but there are exceptions. For instance, in Ruins 2, in the third mission, the key card is either in the top center block or the bottom center block, whichever one is destroyed second. The first will always reveal a part, the attack shoes, and the second will always reveal the key card. So if you aren't collecting that specific part, you can simply make sure one of those blocks is bombed and immediately go for the other one. Sometimes the mission calls for bombing colored switches, in which case there is no key card. Just bomb the switches and move on. Sometimes there are extra restrictions, like a bomb limit or time limit. In the last world, the exit gate is hidden under a soft block, but always in one of a few possible locations. In the first mission in Tower 1, for instance, it's always in one of these 4 corners. Also, don't bomb the exit here or trigger the infrared trap, or you'll have to fight more enemies that spawn, wasting more time. The tower also has a new mission type, escorting plasma balls to the receptacles of the correct color. Note that taking damage will cause you to lose the plasma ball, so that's something to avoid. Also, though you can carry multiple plasma balls with you at once, they can get stuck on corners, so slow down to avoid backtracking. And then, every 9th stage in a world, and Town 8, will be one singular larger mission. Usually nothing new. Bomb switches, defeat enemies, but Ruins 9 will actually be a race to the exit. Glance at each screen and go for the path with the fewest soft blocks. Of course, the real solution is to equip the magic suit, but you only get that one after having beaten the game, so it's not viable for any percent. Along the way of beating all the levels, we contend with the main gimmick of this game, the custom parts hidden in the stages. And this is where finding the optimal route would be nearly impossible. Obviously, you only want to collect the ones you'll use while ignoring the rest. But there are so many parts to find, different combinations of parts for different abilities and stats, parts that require you to have the abilities of other parts to get them, which takes up more time. After messing around a lot, I did come up with a route that seems passable. I won't list the entire route here, just watch my run and you'll see what I'm doing. And if you do want to run this game, I would encourage you to do some experimenting yourself. Which parts work best for you, which parts give you all-around good stats, which ones give you abilities that allow you to beat levels quicker, where are these parts that you need, and do they save enough time later on that it justifies the time investment to get them. Taking into account there are often multiple ways of obtaining certain parts. For instance, in Town 4, you're supposed to kick bombs through these pipes to access the red route in this level for a part, but you can also use the long throw. However, one of the parts that you need for the long throw is in Ruins 8, which you can access before going to Town 4 if you strictly play through the factory and the ruins up to that point, but doing so means that while playing through the ruins, you're missing out on other parts that appear later on in the town that would make playing through the ruins quicker, so every routing decision is a trade-off. And then you have to take the leveling system into account. You start with an equip load of 20, enough to equip the basic set, but as you collect new parts, depending on how far you are in the run, you might not have a high enough level to equip it. So you might have to save it for later or downgrade a different part slot, meaning you might want to pick up that part along the way too. It gets complicated quickly. The structure of the first 4 stages forces you to pick up the 4 parts of the basic set, and when starting the second level you may notice that it forces you into the customization menu, even if you try to press start to skip it. See, once you have your first part, the game will force you to equip it, no matter whether you want to or not. Only in the very first stage can you go in with no parts. Consequently, this is why a no parts run is impossible to pull off. Small tangent here, but the game's versus mode also forces you to equip at least one part, if you have one, so the only way to play that mode with no parts is to delete your save file so you have none. Back on topic though, personally I do recommend going for the throw and later long throw and quick fuse parts. Quick fuse for obvious reasons, pop explode faster, and the throw allows you to do some really neat skips, especially so with the long throw. Pretty much every part can be obtained with the long throw. Some skips don't work with a short fuse though, and some alternate routes, and thus parts, are impossible to get with the quick fuse, such as with these pressure plates, but for the most part, long throw and short fuse boots are the way to go. So at least my route is centered around getting the throwing glove, quick bangles, later nitro boots, and this headgear that gives you the long throw when combined with the throwing gloves. As useful as remote bombs are, they cannot be used at the same time with the throwing glove or even the knuckle bands that give you the punch, so there is a trade-off for using them. Finally, the missile bombs are arguably the most useful ability, though only obtained near the end of the game. Also, when using them, you can't move the reticle over anything solid, unlike the long throw, so that is also a bit of a trade-off. And that's kind of the tips I'd have for routing. Time ends on the final hit on the final boss, Vibos. But this video is more aimed at explaining the other runs more, so let's get into that. Upon beating a stage, you are given a rank on it, or rather, one for the time and one for the score. Now, S-ranking everything in a zone or two will unlock certain things, and both Game FAQ guides claim that you need to S-rank all of Zone G, the tower, to unlock max. This is false. You have to S-rank every stage and zone to unlock max. I have tried this. Here I have just S-ranked all of the tower, but not all of everything else, and there's no max. I S-rank the remaining levels in the game and I get max. You need to S-rank every stage to unlock max. So on the topic of S-ranking, it should be noted that you don't have to S-rank time and score at the same time to make it count. You can do one first and the other separately. Of course, as a speedrun, you generally do want to do both at the same time, and preferably you want to double S-rank as you are playing through the game. Of course, it is easier to get S-ranks with certain parts that you find later in the game, meaning you will have to miss out on the S-rank initially and go back and do it later. So take that into account when creating a route. For instance, I cannot for the life of me consistently S-rank Ruins 3 or 4 without the missile bombs. Also, Ruins 9 is easy to get through with the arm cannon part in Tower 9. You don't need this part for any percent, but in my max percent route I do pick it up so I can S-rank Ruins 9. S-ranking time is pretty upfront. Just play the level quickly. Score, on the other hand, can be a bit finicky. You may notice that killing an enemy, picking up a golden power-up, and picking up a heart while at full health will give you points. Ignore this. The points you get here really aren't substantial. Now, finishing the level while at full health will give you a bunch of points. Even if you took damage, usually the stage will have a heart somewhere you can pick up. For any percent, it doesn't matter too much, but for S-ranking, you do want this bonus for most levels. And then, the remaining time bonus. Having a lot of remaining time results in a bunch of points, which is why simply playing a level quickly and with no damage will generally give you your double S rank. Keep a lookout for time power-ups. They give you extra remaining time, resulting in more points. On the topic of time, sometimes the mission will require you to do something within the time limit, in which case there will be 2 timers on screen. One for the mission, the other for the stage. On beating the mission, the remaining time in the mission timer will give you points, and here's something odd. The stage timer has no maximum that I can tell, but the mission timer does. It will never go above 99 seconds. Even if you have 98 seconds left and pick up a time power-up, it only gives you 1 extra second. What this means is, if you want to finish the mission with the highest possible time bonus, it can be good to leave a time power-up near the gate and only pick it up when you've cleared a path to the exit. That way, you finish the mission with more remaining time than you had if you had picked up the timer earlier. I do not know the exact thresholds for how many points you need for each stage or how quickly you need to beat it. I'm holding out for some data miners to figure that one out, but do practice each level with the gear you are going to use for the run and see what works for you. Time for all S-rank/max percent category ends when this text is fully displayed. Afterwards, go to practice mode and try them out, show them off. I don't know, run is over anyway. Okay, now for 100%. What is required for 100%? Well, beating the game and having S ranks everywhere is certainly required. Case in point, here I trigger the 100% ending by S-ranking the last stage. But there are other requirements that I had already met in this run. Most upfront, collect every part scattered about the stages. Routing for 100% needs to take this into account. You can't skip parts anymore, you have to collect them all. Play through and explore the levels to find the best routes and try to get all the parts in one go. This is possible sometimes. Cave 3 has a branching path, but only the red route has a part in it. The blue route is useless. So make sure you have the ability to hit these red switches by the time you get to Cave 3, that way you don't have to play it twice. Other times, you're just going to have to play the level twice to collect everything. Note that there are 2 occurrences where beating a mission quickly gives you a red key, but there is a part on the blue path. So you'll have to wait around before beating the last enemy so you get the blue keycard and can go down the blue path for that part. I recommend playing through and making your own list of where each part is and what might be required to get it. Keeping in mind everything can be collected with the long throw and normal fuse. Remote bombs are very useful for pressure plates and stuff like that. Here I am collecting the last part and triggering the 100% ending, proving that it can trigger it. But there are still other requirements. In addition to the parts gathered into stages, there are others. The cute pink / pretty bomber / schoolgirl outfit is unlocked by S-ranking certain zones, though the requirements only unlock after having beaten the game. You're S-ranking everything anyway, so Pretty Bomber doesn't present any extra requirements compared to what we're already doing for Max percent, nor does Max himself, obviously. The Captain Boom / athlete parts require beating the game and certain completion percentages. Since we're completing everything anyway, this doesn't present us with any extra requirements on top of what we're doing already. You'll get these parts by meeting other requirements automatically. This next set, however, presents a problem. The Magic Suit / Star Bomber / Top Hat Guy set. You may notice that, upon beating the game, you now have an extras option in the play data menu, showing you stuff like how many bombs you've placed, how many power-ups you've collected. So, for the full magic set, you need to have placed 10,000 bombs, destroyed 6,000 soft blocks, defeated 1,000 enemies, and collected 1,000 power-ups. Yeah. So normally in the course of a casual playthrough, you'd have just done all that, but in a speedrun we're going to have to find a way to farm these. This is where things get a lot more complicated. If you place a bomb and either restart or quit the stage, it will not count towards your total. To make it count, you have to end the stage in some way or another, either by beating it, or running out of time, or dying. As long as the mission report is shown at the end, the bombs you placed and other stuff will be counted towards your total. So for farming, it's probably best to blow yourself up until death after every cycle. But what does a cycle look like? Well, for farming bombs placed, I go to base 4, I max out my bomb count and equip line bands and short fuse. Keep placing rows of bombs until time runs out, or self-destruct at the end, that's faster. Of course, you won't know that you've crossed the threshold of 10,000 bombs until after the mission ends, so it might be good to check your play data, see how many more you need, and keep count. For 6,000 soft blocks destroyed, I again use the short fuse line bombs and clear either this room in Cave 9 or this room in Cave 8, and then kill myself. For 1,000 enemies defeated, I go to Tower 1, beat the enemies in the first screen, find the exit, and then either use remote bombs or missile bombs to bomb the exit and beat the enemies that spawn. For 1,000 power-ups, we need to go on a tangent again. So, power-ups that increase these 6 stats count as power-ups for this total. Time bonuses, parts, stars, these golden things, those don't count. Only these 6 do. If one of your base stats is maxed out, say bombs, then a power-up that would be a bomb will instead be a gold panel. So avoid having any of your stats maxed out while farming. Go to base 4 and equip the search goggles to better see which soft blocks have something in them. Clear this room, pick up the power-ups, then hurt yourself. Hurting yourself to drop a power-up and picking up that power-up again will count as another power-up for your total. So keep hurting yourself and then picking up power-ups until you run out of health. It's best to have low attack and high defense to make sure you can do this as many times as possible per cycle, while also having short fuse and search goggles, so I found that this set of parts works well for farming. You can continue the level and pick up a heart to get get some health back so you can hurt yourself more, but I've found that staying in the first room here works slightly faster. It's also probably best to farm power-ups first and the other 3 later, since power-ups involve all the other 3, placing bombs, destroying soft blocks, and killing enemies. Probably best to go for power-ups, soft blocks, enemies, and bombs in that order. Now that we've beaten the game, S-ranked everything, and beaten the 4 achievements for the magic suit, we should get our 100% ending, right? Well, it is possible to trigger the 100% ending by doing these achievements, and here is proof of that. Here I just picked up power-ups, and it triggered the 100% ending, but not necessarily. In this playthrough, I met all of these requirements, but it did not trigger the 100% ending. What else could be missing? We got all of the parts. We can check the play data and find that, yes indeed, something else is missing. What else could it be? Versus mode stages. Yes, they count towards the completion percentage. We need to unlock those too. So, what are the conditions for unlocking them? Every stage 5 will unlock a versus stage, and every stage 10 will as well. We're getting those automatically because we're beating the game, so that's not anything extra to do. Earn all A ranks in a zone for another versus stage. We're S ranking all of them, so again, nothing extra to do. If you've beaten the game, place 7,000 bombs, destroy 4,000 soft blocks, defeat 700 enemies, and collect 700 power-up packs. These are smaller thresholds than for the magic suit, so since we're getting the magic suit, these don't give us any extra conditions. If you've beaten the game, acquire 30,000 EXP. I have beaten the game once before without having gotten 30k EXP, but in the course of beating the game and S-ranking everything, I have met this threshold automatically every time, so this shouldn't be anything to worry about. Total best score of 2.5 million points and total best time of under 100 minutes. Getting an S rank on everything will also meet these thresholds automatically, so that's also nothing to worry about. That leaves only one last stage to unlock. Quicksand EX, unlocked by beating 300 missions. Missions being the smaller segments of stages. Indeed, in this file where I've S-ranked everything and gotten all the magic suit parts, I did not beat 300 missions, and that's why it didn't trigger the 100% ending yet. I played through base 1 a few times and there we go, 100% ending. This is a requirement for it. I suggest that while farming power-ups in base 4, go ahead to the 3rd room for the first few times, while hurting yourself picking up the hearts to collect more power-ups. It's slower than staying in the first one, but does complete a few missions on the way. So go ahead to the 3rd room a few times until you unlock the stage, then continue to farm power-ups in the first room only. We now have met all the conditions for 100%ing the game. You may notice we haven't reached level 30 for our character. As it turns out, maxing out Bomberman's level is not required for completing the game. The only effect this has on gameplay is that even though we've beaten 100%, there's a chance we might not be able to equip this very specific set of parts, but this is hardly something to complain about. In summary, leaving out conditions we meet automatically, this leaves us with the following general route for beating the game 100%. Beat the game, S-rank all the stages, collect all the parts in the stages. These 3 objectives are done kind of at the same time as far as possible, whatever route works for you. Farm power-ups in base 4 while beating a few missions until you unlock that versus mode stage for 300 missions. Continue farming power-ups until you reach 1000 and get the magic suit part. Farm soft blocks in cave 8 or cave 9 as needed. Farm enemies in tower 1 and place bombs in any stage. And that, in essence, is my route for 100%ing custom battler Bomberman. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk or something.